One of the biggest steps I learned was I sat in front of my board and said, got something to tell you. You may or may not know. I've been struggling for a while. And they're all kind of like, I go, I have anxiety. And that was a turning point in my life. My anxiety went down 30% just telling people. So no longer was I going, do they know, Leslie? Do they not know? Do they know? It's like people who struggle with their weight. I think they need to be open about it and say, yeah, man, I struggle with my weight. And that allows you to move forward to address it. Then you're not holding in here this anxiety and stress, trying to act like you don't have a problem,
That's right. And something that whatever people think about it, but my whole thing is like the beginning of the podcast is like, you have to ask for help. You have to make a change, right? You have to admit that you need something, because I don't want people just listening to the podcast as another way to numb out on their feelings. I need them to have a transformation where you have to put your hand up and say, I'm struggling with something. And yes, it's embarrassing and it feels shameful because you've accomplished so many things in your life, but it just is what it is. And it's affecting and impacting your entire life, your relationships, etc. So let's look at it. Food and weight obsession can be exhausting. Losing weight, gaining weight, dieting, feeling like a failure because you missed a workout, binged, overate, or gained all the weight back. The cycle is endless and it can be maddening. But I'm here to say you can stop the mental madness. You can take back control of your food behaviors, but you have to face your fears, you have to ask for help, and make a change. I am Leslie M. Thornton, permanent weight loss coach from hpwl.co. This is Hypnosis for Permanent Weight Loss, and I know you can make this happen. On this podcast, you will hear how to stop the mental madness, love your body, trust your food decisions, so you can create a life of happiness, freedom, and inner peace. Hello, everyone. Leslie M. Thornton, Hypnosis for Permanent Weight Loss. Today we have Travis Garza with us, which I'm super excited that he's here. Travis and I have been in the same mastermind program, coaching program for coaches for a while now. And his presence is always something that I'm always happy to be around. He's extremely generous and driven and really just wants to share the wealth of knowledge, the wealth of experience, of success, and boost anyone who's around him up and knowing they can do anything. And he really walks his walk. And I had the pleasure of getting to know you even better this past September in San Diego. I think it was September, October. I'm losing track of time.
Yeah.
And over dinner one night, Travis was sharing his story, because something that I know is that when people are very successful, which Travis has many things that he's accomplished in his life, and it's very inspiring. And I'll touch on some of those things in a moment. But oftentimes the more successful a human being is, like, the more trauma, crazy shit they had to get past growing up. And it's like this way that we avoid having to feel the pain or deal with the scary stuff or fight for survival as we find success. And then it's always wonderful to see when someone becomes a victor over their past and actually chooses to take on looking at some of those things that have been in their closet for a long time, and continue to make themselves and the people that they're impacting better as a result of them taking on their own healing journey. So Travis, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Oh, my pleasure. Big time. Love it.
And thank you for who you are. And something, to relate it with my clients with Hypnosis for Permanent Weight Loss is similarly, what works for the rest of society as far as losing weight goes. And I'm sure with your clientele, we have very similar clientele, that it's like, oh, why can't you just decrease calories and increase exercise? But to people who have experienced traumatic past or abusive parenting, or there was no space for emotion as they were growing up, we find that just doing those things is not just as easy as doing those things, that there is actually more required to really change the mindset and do it from a self-loving kind of empowered space versus yeah, why can't you just do it, space in the background? Do you find the same with your clientele? Like there's more of that needing to like love themselves and heal themselves in the process of losing weight at the same time?
Absolutely. One of the biggest things that we actually start with our clients is learning to actually find self-care, self-love in the simple acts of grocery shopping, in the simple acts of food prep versus it being a task. So many times if you talk to people who struggle with their weight, they'll tell you, I think grocery shopping and food prep was put on here to keep us from losing weight. It's the way they approach it. But we have a way that we actually go to people like, look, the act of a certain time on a certain day, you go grocery shopping, I want you just excited like you're going to get a massage. I want you to start feeling it. That takes time to get them to go into that. But absolutely, it's got to be self-care, self-love in all areas to really feel like what you're doing is meaningful.
Oh my God, that's so fantastic. I love that you're saying that. Just last night, I was coaching my clients in neurolinguistic programming. We talk about the different places that motivation could come from. It's either an away from, right? Like I'm trying to lose weight because I'm terrified I'm going to have a heart attack and die and get diabetes and, whatever. No one's going to love me at this size or all the different things that versus towards. And being like, I want this because it feels amazing and it's grocery shopping is an act of self-care. And I want to, feel amazing in my body every day. And when we choose to exactly what you're saying, go towards something that's meaningful and you change the script on why we're doing it, it can feel so much easier just to like want to do it and make it a habit, not because you have to, because you want to. So lovely.
And
I love that.
I'd love to give your audience a little tidbit just to say, somebody will say, hey, I've got a friend of mine and they love grocery shopping. What's the key? And one of the things I tell people to do, instead of going in the grocery store and just like I'm pushing this wire basket around, these people are really getting on my nerves, start tuning that out and look at the basket of life you're building. The basket of life is you put in this food that's going to nourish your body, get in tune to what you're doing and be grateful that you have the knowledge from Leslie to put the basket of life together and be grateful you have the financial means to buy this food. And you can also look around and see the baskets of death. That's what I call it. It's people who really want to do good, but they have no clue. And I actually feel for them. I have empathy because I wish I could help all those people just like you do. But unfortunately, they're putting this, basket together that's just, life shortening possibly. I mean, we don't have to go down that road, but it is the truth. So,
yeah, no, I have to say, I feel like it was just a couple months ago. I saw someone and like the stuff they were putting on the thing. It was like, okay, white bread and cans of, not that there's anything wrong with can necessarily. I don't know. It was just all the stuff that I was like, yep, that has a different vibration. Like, I feel like the vibe is
sure.
Like you said, the basket of death, like it does have a certain, but I must say, because I've changed my mindset around the thing, like sometimes with the, all the colors of the vegetables, the avocados, the tomatoes, the fruit, the vegetable, like all the fun, amazing, basket of life, like me seeing like a thing of Oreos or my favorite kinds of treats or whatever also feels like life. Like, so I feel like there's a space for,
there is.
It's not, because I think it's so easy from diet mentality, at least for my clients. And we're all about, making some of those forbidden foods, maybe not completely forbidden because it ends up kicking them back and having, right, a field day on a stressful day. But to start viewing it like, yeah, that can be part of it too. If that's what brings you life and is part of your balanced life basket, then bring it in, So
Leslie, when people tell people they can't have this and shouldn't that because they're overweight, that's not realistic and it's not sustainable. And in the end of the day, in my opinion, there's no good and bad food. There's nutritionally higher value food than the others. But if I have a chicken breast and I have a piece of fish, and you ask which one's got higher nutrition, most people default to fish. Doesn't make chicken a bad food though, right? But if I have an Oreo and I have a piece of chicken, the chicken's got a higher value, doesn't make it a lesser value. That means the chicken's got a bad food compared to the fish. It's nutritional value, there's room 100%. For everybody.
Yes, I love it. Yeah. And even just, we talk about the forbidden fruit effect, like you can have everything, but you can never have that. It's like the only thing you gravitate to is that. So it's just
then we want that.
That's right.
We're still children. We're still children, Leslie. I've got
Oh,
6-year-old twins, and I say, you can't do that. They're like, well, I want to go check out and see why he said I can't do it.
it's so good. Reverse
Yeah,
psychology.
yeah,
Exactly. It's like you
yeah.
can have that. You can have as much of that as you want. And then they're like, maybe I don't want to have a whole
Boom.
thing
There
of
you go.
cookies, right?
Exactly.
It's
Yeah.
like maybe I
Have
want
at
a
it.
salad instead.
Yeah.
Great.
Mhm.
Wonderful. We did our work correctly.
Yes.
I love it. Cool. Well, I do want to just touch on a few things because you have some awesome things in your background that I think people deserve to hear about. So, number one, you were Mr. Oklahoma 4 times. Is that correct? What does that entail? Could you tell us?
Sure. I'm 56. So back, the only outlet I had in my upbringing was a little weight set in my garage, and I did it to cope. I think I did to deal with things. It was where I just started working out, and I became very addicted to it in a positive manner. I was in this little place one day working out, and a guy came up and he said, "Man, you could compete in bodybuilding." I'm like, "Me?" And he's like, "Yeah." And so I trained and had no clue what I was doing, went in and won this big show, Mr. Teenage Oklahoma, the first one. Then I went on and I snowballed from them. So I won 4 Mr. Oklahoma titles, and then actually got contracted out in California and did that on the circuit for a while, competed at a professional level. And yeah, it was a good thing. It was a good time.
Wow, really interesting. And you mentioned about how you kind of use it as a coping thing. And we had started the podcast of being like, victor over the past.
Yeah.
So what were you running away from? Did you know at the time? What was it like for you?
Me and my mom were pretty much a team on our own. Dad was at first, while he was there, was very abusive to my mom. I would dress up in what we considered my Sunday school shirt and make her chocolate milk to try to make her life better. And he would walk in and throw that across the floor and take it out on her that I was trying to do something. We watched that. To be really transparent, came home one night and he had another female in the shower in our own home, and she put me in the car and we rammed his car so many times it went through the house. And then he disappeared because the law. We were what I used the word stupid poor because it was ridiculous. My mom went to bed, I don't know how many nights without eating in order to feed me. Christmas time, I remember envying people that had fireplaces and Santa was going to come down it. She actually found a cardboard box and drew lines on it and made a fireplace for me to have something to resonate with. But, that's not to play a violin story of sadness. It's just what we went through. And we were constantly, I wore the same clothes to school. She cut my hair. Of course, you stand out when people, people feel like bullying is new today. It's always been around. It's just not, you didn't have social media back then. And, you're on the lunch project thing. People know about that. So you're
So
dealing
you were
with,
bullied. What did that look like?
it was more making fun of. I was
Okay.
an angry kid, not like lashing out, but I wasn't one to sit around and take it either. So you give me a reason, I'm willing to go to get grass time, as we used to call it. And I changed that mentality as I got older. But I would say for people,
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of anger there for all of the dad things that you couldn't be mad at him for. So had to have a
Sure.
release somehow.
Yeah.
So if anyone gave you a reason, I'm sure you'd want to fight.
I'd say a turning point in my life of insecurity. I was around 6 or 8, and my mom afforded to buy me a toy, which was for like $1.50. It was a little GI Joe Army Man parachute. And in my neighborhood, none of us had toys. So I brought this out and shared it with everybody. And that day I felt so amazing. I was like somebody. I had something and I was valued as the cool whatever. The very next day, my buddy, good friend's grandmother who had money bought him one, but it was a gigantic GI Joe with this parachute that in my kid's mind had fireworks flying out of it when he threw it up in the air. And I didn't know it till I got older and started really searching that day was a crushing moment for me, that you are second best. You never deserve to be first. Back here, it's comfortable. It's safe back here, because that hurts. Being number one and being all that attention, everybody thinking you're amazing and you're so good, Travis, sharing it. I got punched that next day. And guess what? By my own self. He didn't say anything like, ha ha, I got a bigger toy. Trav, you want to share my toy because you shared yours with me? I mean, we were friends. We all in this together. But in my mind was a defining point for the rest of my life till I turned 50 that I've realized through counseling and stuff. That was a time that I said, even in bodybuilding competitions, my family would say, I felt amazing taking second place. First place, I got kind of weird. And Leslie, I'll tell you present day, you remember those awards I got, like you received at our deal?
Yes. Yes.
The day he gave those to me, Amanda and them caught me looking around, and it's a habit because I'm thinking, if somebody could come out and say, oh, wait, we made a mistake, that's not yours.
Wow.
I'm not as bad, but just to tell you how simple things like that, you in your own mind can turn it around into the rest of my life. I want to stay back here. Caution tape. I don't want to go past it.
Yes. And then there's this other, you can let me know if you agree, there's like the unconscious part of ourselves that is still trying to fight to be the best. But then at the same time, we keep stopping ourselves because it's like, we want to know that we are, but we won't allow ourselves to get there because it's dangerous there. We got embarrassed that same way. So then, and that's how we get to have breakthroughs as people, you know, driven towards impact and success and next levels and all the things. Like, why can't I ever be number one? Or why can't, it's like, wow, because someone had a bigger parachute man than you.
Yeah.
It sounds so ridiculous, but we see this all the time. I just was speaking with a client this morning who enrolled in our program, and she was saying, like, you know, before I got on this call, I was really trying to think. And she's like, thank God for, you know, the thing that you had me listen to prior to getting on here. She's like, because I was like, wow, my mom was always dieting. My dad was a compulsive eater. Like anytime that I brought anything to the house, he would eat it within 5 minutes. So I learned that it's unsafe, you know, to have any of this stuff around me, you know. And it's like, if we're not taking that deeper dive into, like, instead I see, and I'm sure you see this all the time with your clients, like they're just stuck in what's wrong with me, right? As I'm sure maybe if you were continuing to get second place, or it's like, what's wrong with me? Like, why can't I do it? And I'm out of control and I'm an addict and but it's like, when you actually start to uncover these things, it's like, it's not your fault at all.
Right.
These things that happened when you were a little kid is literally impacting your day-to-day life today.
Yeah.
And once we can like shine a light on it and like give some love and compassion and probably shed some tears, you know, allow ourselves to feel some of these emotions around it, then all of a sudden you get to like just have your breakthrough automatically, which is amazing for people to get to. That's awesome. Okay. So you said, what did you say? You said something about until I was 20 or something. Or until I was 40? 50. So what happened when you were 50?
50, I actually I woke up, went to bed on Sunday night. I woke up on a Monday. And if I could describe, if people that believe this, there is a hell, I woke up in it, and I was looking around, and it was the most debilitating feeling that I was walking through hell. I looked over at my wife, and I just went and I worked out. I said, I need to work out and clear my head. And down there, I was looking at people, and they were talking to me, but I was seeing me talk to them. And then I realized I'm not even over there. So of course, panic sets in. I'm thinking, okay, you're just stressed out about something, it'll go away. Long story short, that went on for 8 months. I actually was out to fix my struggle. I had never heard of anxiety in the form of what I had. Fast forwarding, it went on far enough. I went really reading and diving in and learning about what, you know, why I was thinking of what I was thinking. But the turning point was I finally got admitted to the heart hospital. $30,000 later, because what had happened is I passed out, and they got me to the hospital, and they clinically said I died. And I've told you about the book I wrote, The Day I Died and Found Anxiety. And my heart stopped for 6-7 seconds. And then I came back, my wife screaming, and they ran all these tests. And at the end, a lady walked in, had not seen her before, and she tapped me and she said, there's nothing wrong with you. You have anxiety. And I said, do you know who you're talking to? I talk in front of hundreds of people. I love it. It thrills me. She goes, it's not that kind. She said, but you need to find yourself, is what she said. And I started going to counselors and paying a fee, saying, I don't want you to counsel me. Educate me on what this thing is I've got going on. I wanted to learn because I wanted to understand it. And I remember them telling me, you have a struggle, quit trying to fix it, make it go away. Lovingly accept it's okay that you have a struggle. But now we're going to put in these pillars and things so you can have an amazing life while addressing your struggle, which I think me and you both can say is something all of our clients can benefit from. Like owning up, hey, it's okay that we have a struggle. I have a struggle with food, weight loss, alcohol, anxiety. And that was when a lot of this stuff got uncovered about why I built up to the day I finally just broke. So you could call it an 8-month breakdown if you want to call it that. I have no problem with that. I get called to speak on it all the time. So yeah. So today I put in practices like someone who struggles with their weight would, so that I can address my struggle and have an amazing life. And I just think people can learn from that. Like my struggle is anxiety, yours is weight, yours is this. But we have to own up that we have a struggle, quit trying to make it go away and make it our best friend. I actually make it my best friend and say, hey, what's up, buddy? And I know how to work with it now, though. Don't you know what I'm saying?
Oh, 100%. I was literally just talking about that with my clients last night. And she was like, everything's working. I'm, experiencing more freedom around food. She was like, but I just judge myself because I should be farther than where I am. And da, 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 da. I was just like, okay, so that's your judger. How can you make friends with your judger? Because it's the same thing as if you keep making Oreos and ice cream wrong and bad, you're going to keep wanting them. If you keep making your judger part bad and like saying, get this out of my head, guess who's going to keep talking to you all day in this ferocious, annoying way, right?
Yep,
so it's like,
yep.
How can you pull out that part and be like, thank you, you're somehow trying to help me. It literally thinks that if it's not judging you all day long, that you're going to die, right? Because you're not safe to be weak or vulnerable or have any feelings, et cetera, et cetera. And she's like, all right, I'll take it on because as soon as we befriend the problem. And I mean, today we're living in a time that's actually very fortunate as far as people talking about how vulnerability is people's biggest superpower.
Yep.
Like kind of gone or going the days of, not having people see that you struggle as well and are going through things. And, but it's more about who you're being during it and what you're doing about it and who you become as the result. And that's like the most inspiring thing ever. So thanks for walking your walk.
I think people too, and you're correct. I think people, including me, we conceal something. We are told, don't show your weaknesses. You don't tell people you have mental health. I was told by my attorneys that one of the biggest steps I learned was I sat in front of my board and said, got something to tell you. You may or may not know. I've been struggling for a while. And they're all kind of like, I have anxiety. And that was a turning point in my life. My anxiety went down 30% just telling people. So no longer was I going, do they know, Leslie? Do they not know? Do they know? It's like people who struggle with their weight. I think they need to be open about it and say, yeah, man, I struggle with my weight. And that allows you to move forward to address it. Then you're not holding in here this anxiety and stress, trying to act like you don't have a problem,
That's right. And something that whatever people think about it, but my whole thing is like the beginning of the podcast is like, you have to ask for help. You have to make a change, right? You have to admit that you need something, because I don't want people just listening to the podcast as another way to numb out on their feelings. I need them to have a transformation where you have to put your hand up and say, I'm struggling with something. And yes, it's embarrassing and it feels shameful because you've accomplished so many things in your life, but it just is what it is. And it's affecting and impacting your entire life, your relationships, etc. So let's look at it. There's no shame in that whatsoever, but it can be very painful and emotional to do so. The last 2 people I enrolled the last 2 days are like, I don't want to be here, but I'm going to try not to cry. I'm a business owner. I own 4 businesses. I'm a, flight nurse, and I save people's lives every day. And this is a problem and has been for decades. And it's like, good for you for being here. It takes something. And so I'm curious, like, what are your thoughts? Because my thought on that is, if you come from an abusive childhood and past, you get it wired in your system of like, it's literally unsafe to have an emotional breakdown, to put up your hands. I recently kind of remembered this. Like I always knew it as kind of the beginning of my weight loss story or whatever, but I've seen it in a different light just recently, where I was 13 and I chose not to play basketball that year on my little Catholic school basketball team because I wanted to hang out with my friend who wasn't on the basketball team instead. So that decrease in physical activity and, equaled me to have more. I started feeling depressed. Right. And my weight was changing and da da da. And I was just feeling, and it took everything in me to actually put my hand up and say something to my mom of being like, I think I'm, depressed at 13 years old. And I was brought to the nurse practitioner, like nothing said, just made an appointment for me for nurse practitioner. They went through the whole, suicidal and da 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 test. The nurse practitioner told her probably that I wasn't suicidal. And then it was never talked about again. And then I was told, the next year, like, you're allowed to do Weight Watchers with your aunt if you'd like to. And that was like the solution or something. So then it's like, so then this is how the whole saga for the rest of your life becomes around this like challenge for weight loss, because this is the solution to becoming happy.
Yeah.
Forget about knowing like what all components that lead to a happy, healthy, awesome life, right? And emotional support and whatever. It's just like weight loss equals how you find it. And so it's like, why was I never truly successful, right? I had lost the weight, but there was always still that, unhappiness or that chase or being miserable if the scale went up or blah, 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 blah. And at one point, a counselor that I was seeing was like, so where's that 13-year-old girl today?
Yeah.
And I was like, I think she's still here,
Mm-hmm.
waiting for somebody to care about her feelings.
Yeah. To hear her.
Right. And then it was like, okay, so we need to get it so that you become your own well. Right. So it's like you're going currently, and there would be parts because family still ends up being a challenge. So when I'd get really stressed, sometimes I'd reach out to family still and be like, guys, put up my hand, and get nothing back.
Right.
It's like, so Leslie, you keep going to a dry well. Right. And it's like, we need to like learn the lesson that like there ain't any water there. And then focus on how can you be your own well.
Yeah.
And that was so transformational, of like, that's what it is. But yet we have this story in our head that it's like the weight, it's the weight, it's the weight. So I'm curious and then I see this all the time. It's like, it'll go one of two ways from the abusive past. It'll be, you become a bodybuilder and Mr. Oklahoma 4 times, or you could be, very overweight and very unhealthy or whatever. So is that, your experience? Do you see that? Thoughts on anything I'm saying?
Yeah, I feel like that when I started to do the bodybuilding thing, I never cared about the winning of it. It was actually the fact that I was doing something that not too many people could do, which started to finally lift my self-esteem and confidence up, while those suppressing what you talked about. We've talked about before, there was an incident when my dad came around and made me and my mom drive him to a place where somebody owed him money. And they came out shooting each other with guns. And we crouched over in a fetal position. She grabbed me. And later when the cops came, there was an outline of our body and no bullets had penetrated and killed us. It just outlined, there was a shield protecting us. And, later on people would say, Travis, you seem like you're just normal about that. I'm like, yeah, I mean, and I always played it off as normal, but I'll be honest with you. At that time, I did not feel like it was any big deal until it was a big deal. And I think it was also the motivator to get out, be successful, change, be something that nobody else was in that family, and just wanting to be different, at all costs. I needed to do something to be different. So
wanting to be different. Yes. And I think we talked about this a little bit in San Diego of like, what, like protecting mom, or like a way to protect mom.
Yeah.
I think it was also like a way to get dad to like see you, or.
I think so. It's like, I was always told you'll never be nothing. You come from this neighborhood. And I always remember telling my mom, I said, I just want to get enough money to buy you a Ferrari. I just always said that. And I always said, I want to make $1 million. And I remember somebody very impactful telling me, you'll never make $1 million. And it became my focal point. And I remember I said, by the time I'm a certain age, I'm going to make $1 million. And a year before I turned that age, I made my first $1 million. And it wasn't the money, Leslie. It was the company. So people who are struggling, it's like sometimes you can use that as, I want to get out, and you're going to prove to people I'm going to be better. And it's not even really the tangible part of the money or whatever like that. It's just I did it, and that confidence and feeling that I accomplished. And that's kind of how it worked for me.
Absolutely. And then when you got to that million, because this is what happens, right? Sometimes people will hit the weight loss goal
Yes.
and it's not as amazing as they thought because it was coming from an inauthentic part of like trying to prove to mom or dad that I can, or I'm good
Yep.
enough, or I'm worthy. So when you hit your first million, what was your experience?
So it was actually another changing point in my life, and I've used that with my clients today, is I was thinking if I ever did that million, I would be so happy. I'd be content.
Mhm.
Or if I ever lost that 20 pounds, as our clients, well, I'll just be so happy if I was 185, only to get there and find, as you use, the well goes dry real quick. About 3 or 4 days, maybe it's longer for some people. All of a sudden you're like, I'm not happy anymore. Oh, I need to do another million. Oh, I need another
Right.
20 pounds. I need to lose a little bit more weight. That approach doesn't work in any facet of life. And when people are waiting on an outcome to make them happy, they're not
right.
even guaranteed you're going to get there. You may die one day. We need to be
That's
present
right.
in the moment right now, content with our bodies as we are in this moment, as we're making the changes. We've got to find that way to just like, I'm happy today as I am. I'm not being complacent,
Correct.
but I'm happy today, because otherwise you're just like, I'm going to be happy when I get there. And then only to find out that's not going to fulfill you.
That's exactly it. I was talking to a woman yesterday, and I've been saying to people very straightly recently of being like, listen, if you're looking just to lose 10 pounds quick, like I'm not your girl.
Yeah, I agree.
Like I care about your living a purposeful life and enjoying your day-to-day life and being present with your families and like
Amen.
loving your life while you're on the pathway, and as you're getting healthier in those ways, our belief is that you'll get healthier, and that the weight loss will be a side effect of this. And this woman, she, resonated with this. So she's telling me a story and all the things she's done in the past and all the things and all the things. And then she talks about how we actually got into it in like her relationship. And she was just like, oh yeah, like you could see that like something happened in her, face when we started talking about that. And then we really uncovered it that she wanted to start a business. She wanted to be in a relationship. She wanted to sell her condo. Right? She wanted to do all these things, but everything was based on, I can't do that until I have lost the weight.
Yes.
And it's like human beings live so someday, one day, like first I need to do this, and then I'll have the confidence, I'll have the happiness, I'll have the success that I want to then be able to. It's like, you don't even know if you're going to be alive tomorrow.
No.
And how long have you been trying to lose this weight to do these things? It's like 20 years, 30, 40 years. It's like, so the real issue is that you are scared of being seen, is what we uncovered. Because she had this memory when she was in middle school wearing this yellow dress and she looked chubby. And since then she's been on this wild goose chase to lose weight. And it's like, and she's like, and I fail at everything that I do. And it's like, well, do you think it's possible that the reason that you're failing at everything you do is because you're not working at what is the actual source of this issue in the first place, which is that you have this unconscious fear of putting yourself out there and taking a risk and taking action, out of your comfort zone. And then it's just, but I see it all the time. I'm sure you do as well, where it's just people thinking that the weight loss. So something we talk about also in neurolinguistic programming is the difference. People get it so messed up in their mind between they have a goal, right? They say it's a weight loss goal, but it's actually the state that they're looking for. We're talking about, they're looking for happiness, they're looking for confidence, they're looking for inner peace. And it's like, okay, and if we teach you these NLP tools, you can be in control of your state in any moment in any day.
Yep.
And then when that stays consistent, two things happen. A, you either don't care about weight loss anymore and you actually can go after the business or the relationship or the things that you haven't been doing, or you start taking care of yourself better because you're feeling better. It's like either way, it's a win-win. But if you keep lying to yourself, which is totally innocent, we don't know that we're doing it, like happened to you with $1 million is going to make me happy.
Right.
Then you're going to get there. And it's just going to be, like you said, like, I need the next million. I need the next million. And like just driving ourselves into the ground.
I think disappointment sets in when you do arrive there, when it's that approach. And I think also something I uncovered about myself and then realized with my clients is we have to also feel like and accept we deserve to be successful. I think so many of us don't feel like we deserve it. And people go, well, no, I mean, I deserve to be thinner. I go, I know consciously you think that, but subconsciously, let's
Yes.
write down some reasons you don't deserve to lose as much weight and keep it off. And that's a tough one for us because we're not wired that way.
That's right. Especially if you had the traumatic past, because then somebody was not making you feel worthy or valuable, or Catholic
Sub-zero.
guilt.
Yes.
Some kind of religious, guilt setting in.
Indoctrinated into believing that you better do this or you're going to burn, and everything else.
Right. Or money is bad, or you're
Money's
greedy,
bad.
or a
You're
terrible
greedy.
person.
Yeah.
All these things that
you're chasing the evil stuff. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Oh my
Yeah.
God, it's so fun. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I know that right now you had a program and it was 20 pounds. What was it called again?
Actually,
20-pound weight loss challenge, but you're revamping it 6 weeks.
Well, and when it started out, it was actually a 42-day fat funeral program because we were educating people how to lose fat, not weight. And it got morphed into the challenge words, which I wasn't fond of. But anyway, I spent about a year, took off and created what I call the real world 8-week challenge because people that word, but it's kind of like just getting people in the real world to understand. And it's not for everybody because some people still want that quick fix. Do you find that they're like, oh, well, I want you to fix me? I'm like,
oh yeah,
this program won't be for you because it'll be boring to you. And see, if it's not the shiny object syndrome, a lot of people don't want it. But yeah, it's a great thing that we just launched and had a lot of people successful jumping on board. Like I'm tired of the gimmicks. I want to learn the real world way. And I know it's not gonna be fun. It may be boring, but it's sustainable. So yeah.
That's awesome. Cool. And if anyone's looking for that, how can they find it?
Oh, TravisGarza.com, www.travisgarza.com. There's stuff there. So
awesome. Definitely have people check that out.
Sure.
Yeah. And I just want to go back for a second. You talk about the anxiety, right? It's like, I feel like anxiety is the thing that everybody has everybody work so hard and drill ourselves into the ground, which is that safety of just survival is something that's just being, and like the thing that numbs it out ends up being alcohol, sugar, work, just anything not to feel it. It's just everything is about avoiding the pain. And then then you obviously started allowing yourself to feel the pain yourself. Yeah.
Oh man.
What was that?
When I finally it surfaced, it didn't come. It came like a tidal wave. And I finally started balancing the hell I was in started to go away. And then all okay, now you're going to face this. They all came up and said, it's time you deal with us. And that was probably a 2-year process. And I got to where I got strong enough to face it. Well, I'm a fitness guy. That's all I've ever done. I know nothing else in the world. And I go and write a book on anxiety because I got so much. I said, this is like, I can't believe that I had this. It's like crazy. But I just had to write it down. Wasn't trying to write a book. I was just writing it down. But man, once I realized where my insecurities and stuff and said, okay, look, it's okay to be number one. You can be that. It's not bad, like we talked about. And just letting those feelings of how I felt maybe towards my mother, maybe even though she was protecting me, maybe she was trying to protect me too much. I'm like, a lot of stuff came about and it got finally where it got into a balance. And now I'm there and I'm equally able to distribute out in all areas of my life and people, not just, this. But I like to tell people too, you can use your bad upbringing and your bad mistakes as a reason as why you're not getting to where you want to be with your weight loss or your business or what you want to do. Instead of turning it around and use that as, that probably made you pretty tough. And I bet if you're tough because you've had to go through some crap, that means you're tough enough to deal with what a lot of business owners can't when things get tough, right?
That's right.
Use that like, man, I got tough during those times. That was not a good time. And my dad beat on me and my mom was horrible and everybody told me I was fat and all that. But that made you somewhere a little bit resilient. And now if you got that kind of resilience, you're going to be able to handle when the bad times come to your business. Like, that's nothing compared to what I went through. I can handle this shit, so.
Yes, I have 2 clients right now and they really, very noticeably more than other people in the group were, struggling with all the stuff, like lots of anxiety and like it was really painful and they felt their feelings really hard. And, and I was like, listen, you two could look at it in whatever way you want right now. I was like, yes, your struggle is real and big and whatever. But I was like, and what potential do you guys have and have already accomplished in your life to like have all these amazing things? Like I was like, myself included, like the amount of anxiety, the amount of stuff I held in, the amount of space that I held for other people, like, but I've done incredible things in my life because of it. So like, what if you actually just tweak it and it's like, yes, I am, this is very challenging for me and I get to live an incredible life because of it.
Yeah.
And what if that was your destiny? Well, that's what you were supposed to be, your life purpose and part of your story that, it's however you choose to see it. So rewrite the script over and over again.
I think, Leslie, if we, like what we're talking about here, if people would look at what they overcome to get out of the pit to just a normal life, if you can overcome that most people don't ever have to go through, you got to understand what you think is normal that you went through as a child, whatever it may be. It's not probably most people had a pretty decent upbringing and never experienced that kind of trauma.
Thank you for saying that.
If you overcame that, what makes you think you can't overcome all the normal crap in the world that people want to achieve with business and making a good living and weight loss and health and all that? That should be easy peasy if you'll turn the mind around and think, I overcame some pretty badass crap here. Let me use that resilience of overcoming, getting out of that hellhole and do it on some fun stuff like losing weight and getting a good job and all that, because that's nothing. That's fun compared to what I overcame.
Absolutely. Yes. And for anyone who's like, yes, but how do I do that? Like for me, it's like, you need to put your hand up and ask for help and be vulnerable.
You definitely. Yeah. It's not something you can just magically happen. You got to have a coach. I mean, definitely.
Because you have to have a coach because you can't know what you don't know. When was your right? What was your experience of that? You have to spend money on yourself. You have to value yourself. You have to get out of your comfort zone.
Yes.
So, and was that your whole life that you were doing that, or what did that look like for you?
What's that mentality?
Coaching. I mean, obviously when you were doing bodybuilding, you were getting coached in that regard.
Yes. No, I'm a big believer. I had, back in the day, it was called a mentor and then it came into a coach, but
right.
I feel like everyone should have a coach. Leslie, I mean, you have a coach, right? We got Xander.
Oh yeah.
And I have a coach for anxiety. I mean, everyone needs somebody. You know why we need coaches, Leslie? And to your audience, we can step out. You can step out. Leslie can step out and she can look into your world and see what you can't see because you're caught up in your storm. You're in the mix of it and you can't see where you have time. You can't see where you need to make this shift. You can't see it. And Leslie's going to fly up 30,000 feet in the air and she's going to look down in your life and say, may I suggest we think like this in this area? She can see what you'll never see because she's the coach. And that's what we do is show you what you can't see because you are in your storm and it's cloudy and there's a tornado and there's wind and you're blinded. And so we want to come in there and show you like, look, we're out here. We can show you how we can move you out of that storm a little at a time to where you don't have to deal with that anymore.
100%. It saves so much time. It ends up saving so much money, like years off your life, sometimes lifetimes. Like there's many people who never do any of the stuff, and I know you and I are both invested in coaching. It's like, I'm in the shitstorm myself and I need someone else to see for different things in my life. But it just so happens that with the food, body and weight stuff, it's like, I went through that storm. Like I did that. And not only that, like I needed to so I was, invested in all the things to do it myself, but I needed to understand it. Right. Like I needed to really I needed to be in it. Just last night, I was talking to a client and she was saying how she was like, yeah, okay. I unconsciously went and ate, cheese and beans or something like that. And she was like, and I felt fine. She's like, and then I had 5 mini sugar-free Klondike bars. And then I had a stomach, ache all day. And it was just like, and she was like, so you're telling me that she's like, but I'm not learning from the stomach ache because I still do it anyway. And I was like, so then you need to learn how to make an empowered choice that you want that many Klondike bars and you're choosing the stomach ache. Yeah. And just to see that light bulb go off. And she's like, so you're saying it's about me making that choice. And then all day long, I'm not mad at myself because I made the choice. I'm like, that's right. Yep. She's like, and then I won't eat as much during the day because I'm not in the shit storm with myself saying, why did you do that? You shouldn't have done that. Now you have a stomach ache. She's like, I knew very well what that action was going to do. And I did it anyway. Yep. So if I just own my choices, then I can have inner peace. I was like, that's it. That's it. And it's like, just to see that, and she was really challenging me. She's like, you're not going to be able to answer this because I'm not good. I'm like, own it. Yeah. You want it. And then she just, and now she can go back and it's another piece of the puzzle. So I love coaching. I think it's the
And,
best.
and let me chime in on your listeners. I would say hands across the down, everybody listening right now would love to hire you as a coach, but it's very odd that when it comes to our health and our well-being, when it comes to this, people, it's an afterthought. They actually start looking at a price tag on how much their health is valued. But I can tell you this, Leslie, they're sitting in front of a doctor and the doctor says, you've let yourself go, you've gotten overweight, you've got diabetes, and we're going to need $3,000, $4,000 to fix you. They'll find that money.
That's right.
But see, we got to get out of our own way when it comes to coaches. It's like, look, you've got to quit putting yourself on a back burner, put yourself up there, raise your hand, Leslie, and say, hey, I want everything you're talking about, and I'm worth all that. And not putting a dollar amount on what you're worth. How far is your health worth? And at the end of the day, if it goes diabetes and it goes medications, it's going to be a whole lot more than our coaching. So,
oh my God, exactly. Like you're not going to have your life anymore. You're not going to have any health to do and live your life, whatever. The reason I started doing this and felt pulled, I used to work in the kidney transplant unit as a nurse and then the surgical and neuro ICU. And I'd see people on their deathbeds at 50 years old and amputations because of diabetes, like people like me and you that are like, and they're like, if I knew my life was going to end this soon, I would have done so many things differently. And at the time I had experienced hypnosis and got past my, food addiction and mental obsession with food, body, and weight that literally couldn't go away until I actually started practicing this tool. And I was like, I know something that will help these people that are literally asking for this answer.
Yep.
I had a patient who came in one night, he was like 365 pounds on dialysis, and he's crying. And he's like, Leslie, I'm going to die. I'm going to leave my son behind. He's like, I know all the right things to do to not eat and all the things. He's like, I literally cannot stop. And he's just weeping. And I was a new nurse at the time. And I was like, am I allowed to tell him about this? So I told him about the hypnosis. 6 months later, he's readmitted for something else. And he's like, I was hoping I'd see you. He was down 60 pounds off 4 blood pressure medications. He's like, it's all because I started doing the hypnosis. And I was like, I gotta get to people before they end up in this situation.
Yeah.
And so that was, because it's just, and so I always say to my, potential clients, they're like, you're either going to pay for it now or you're going to pay for it later when you don't have your health anymore. It's like, when, this is going on down the line, is it going to be worth X amount of dollars to you then? Like, so it's just like, and that's the thing. My hope is, Travis, that one day coaching becomes something that just like everybody has, like you're saying.
Sure. Yeah.
I had a grandfather who was a physical therapist before physical therapy was what every client or patient was prescribed after surgery. Like that wasn't always a thing. They'd finish the surgery and then they'd get out of there. It's like, good luck. With no rehab. So my grandfather used to have to go to doctor's offices and try to sell to them why it was important for them to have their patients go to physical therapy after surgery. And some of them would be like, get out of here. Like, this is no. And we can't even imagine a society where physical therapy didn't exist now.
No.
And it's like, I feel like a little bit with coaches right now, it's like, we're kind of having to do what my grandfather had to do, of being like, let me prove to you why everybody should have this.
Yeah.
And my hope is that one day it's just like, everybody has this.
and quit waiting. Don't wait till you're in pain to hire us.
Yes.
Come see us. So you don't here's the deal. You don't have to travel that path. But some people, they know they're overweight. They know they have medical problems, but they're just not in that pain yet. And they go, I'm not doing too bad. Right. You don't want to wait till you're actually on the other side. And then it's like, why didn't I hire a coach to prevent this from happening?
That's right. And I always say, like, if you're not sure, like, just pay attention to that little sound in your voice. Like, there's all these excuses that you have. You can compare yourself and be like, oh, I don't really think I have an issue. Like, oh, it's fine, or da, 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 da. Like, even it's like, oh, well, I don't drink half as much as that person does, or I don't eat half as much. But it's like, if it's a problem for you, though, regardless of what that is, if there's a little whisper in your voice that's like, it's a problem.
Yeah.
It's like, then it's a problem.
Yeah.
And you should look at it because it's not going to get any better. That's right. Intuition. I remember having that little voice in my head at one point. It was like right before I turned 21. Yeah. I had like 10 beers one day and I didn't feel anything. And I was like, still like wanting to get the feeling. And I was like, this is how people become addicts.
Yeah.
I was scared in that moment. And I felt that little whisper of being like, this is a problem.
Yeah.
And then, after that, I stopped drinking and all sorts of amazing things started unfolding, but it was because I listened. So
That's right.
listen to the voice,
Intuition,
hire a coach.
Intuition's always right, usually, pretty much.
I know, exactly.
Yeah.
I could literally talk to you all day. I wish we could hang out. I know you're a busy guy. Maybe one day we can hang out in person.
Sure,
I can meet your amazing twins, have a dinner party, meet your wife, all the things. But in the meantime, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for sharing your story so vulnerably. It's been so fun hanging out with you. Again, if you guys are looking to get connected, it's travisgarza.com. Check him out. Amazing guy. And we'll see you next time. Thanks so much, Travis.
Thank you.
If you are serious about taking action on your struggle with food, body, and weight, then this is for you. Go ahead and text the word hypnosis to 855-BE-ALIVE. That's 855-232-5483. Immediately after texting that number, you will get access to our free training that will tell you why you can't figure the food, body, and weight thing out, why you can't keep weight off even after you've been successful in the past, and how to actually overcome it, including a mini hypnosis session at the end. Don't miss out. Text the word hypnosis to 855-BE-ALIVE. That's 855-232-5483.